Tonight,
I'm announcing both an ending and a beginning.
Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray in his last week in office. Why is he leaving politics, and will he ever run for elected office again? In his only television interview, Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray is here. Plus, Jared Bowen sits down with a very gleeful Matthew Morrison about where it all began. Now on Greater Boston. Good evening. Tonight, Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray joins us. Last week, Murray announced he would be leaving his post at the end of the month to lead the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. This follows his decision in January not to run for governor at the end of Deval Patrick's term. A decision most speculate was because certain issues would just not go away. And joining me now to talk about his decision is our Lieutenant Governor, Tim Murray. Welcome, Tim Murray. Good to have you here.
Good to be here, Emily.
So is it a bittersweet departure in a way?
It is. I mean, I've been in elective office for 15 years, and I've enjoyed it. Most days have been good, and I've gotten a lot done, working with people, getting projects done, policy initiatives, and that's been immensely gratifying. But this is an opportunity, a unique opportunity that builds on a lot of the work, and it's something that's not going to be there in January of 2015, and it was a good fit.
Yeah, I think most people actually understand that. There's an intellectual grasp of the fact that you're offered a really good job, pays more money, you're close to home, you don't have to do the schlep to the State House every day. But are you frustrated at all by the fact that not just the media, but the general buzz is that it's got to be more than that? That they're still cloaking it in this whole thing about the car crash in November of 2011 and your association with Michael McLaughlin, the former head of the Chelsea Housing Authority.
Yeah, people can speculate, what they want, and some people have their preconceived notions. I have tried in each and every one of those instances. The morning the accident happened, maybe I shouldn't have gone out and done a press conference. I've tried in different venues to answer it. I've written about it with my supporters and tried to answer as best I could. You're never going to be able to satisfy everybody. But ultimately, my decision in January not to run was a personal one, a family one. 2006, when I ran, I had one daughter who was 9 months old. When I ran for election with Governor Patrick, a lot of people didn't give us much of a chance, and I was out for 15 months, 6 and 7 days a week. My daughters were 5 and 4 at the time, and I wasn't home much. So I knew running for governor was going to take that same level of time and commitment. There were some challenges, but I still felt there was a story to tell. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't the right time.
Going back to, you made the point about having the press conference at the State House. I think people were kind of stunned that you did, because when you look at that car, it was totaled. The fact that you could even walk away from it. So the fact that you got yourself together, did the breathalyzer and all that, and, were you surprised in the end by how much scrutiny there was, since you actually came forward to tell the story?
Well, I was surprised in the sense that, media outlets were visiting every bar, restaurant, hotel, calling my neighbors to ask if I was having marital problems. It surprised me, quite frankly. And I know that people have. It was an accident. Do I know exactly what happened? I don't. It was an accident, happened in seconds, and I'm just thankful to be alive. And so you do the best you can, and knowing you're not going to satisfy everybody.
In hindsight, should you have been the one who just said, you know what, let's release those phone records? I know the governor said we're not going to do that, and there's some privacy concerns there, and I think he was concerned also about the camel's nose under the tent. Once you start releasing one person's phone records, everybody's going to go for everybody else's, but it would have clarified everything, in my opinion, and might it have just made it go away if you had done that?
Perhaps with some people, Emily, but I'm not convinced. You might be satisfied, and the reporters here, if I left 24 hours, other people might want a week, other people might want a month. And ultimately, we comply with
even of that day.
Listen, but there's some people that might not be enough. Who'd you talk to 2 days before? We comply with the public records law in the sense that we don't have itemized bills. We provided the records. I can assure you and tell you unequivocally, I was not on the phone with anybody. It wasn't texting. This was an accident.
When you look at those photographs now, do you think, oh my gosh, how did I survive that? You walked away intact, and most people look at that and think, we've all seen bad car accidents, and usually people don't walk away intact. I know you had some bumps and bruises, but it was bad.
No, I do. see the pictures from time to time when
we're showing it now.
It's you're thankful that you're able to, you're alive, and that's, it's an accident. It happens, and I wish it didn't happen. I feel badly about the distraction that it's caused in the work that the governor's asked me to do and the administration, but you just try to do the best you can.
I mean, this might have blown over if it weren't for the fact that it was kind of a 1-2 whammy. The fact that I think it was just a week or two earlier, the information came out about Michael McLaughlin, and the fact that you had a very close association with him, 193 phone calls over a 2-year span. I mean, first of all, have you talked to him since then? He's since admitted he had a salary of $360,000. He was hiding. He had other issues in his past. He's now an admitted felon. He hasn't been sentenced yet, but have you talked to him? Have you had any?
No, I haven't had any, and I've said consistently he was one of about a dozen early supporters of mine in the Merrimack Valley, and somebody who is active on housing issues and a leader in the public housing community. That's part of my portfolio. I make hundreds and hundreds of phone calls a week. And certainly he was somebody on that I would talk to on housing authority issues and was an advocate on behalf of public housing authorities, was active with Narrow. And so, in isolation, yes, it may seem like a lot of phone calls, but I am doing hundreds of phone calls and constantly on the phone as I'm in the car driving around the state every day. Part of my portfolio with Governor Patrick is working with city and town officials, municipal officials, working on issues of housing and homelessness, veterans issues. So I'm constantly on the phone with people across the state.
Yeah, but wait, he was a little bit more than that. He was more or less a top echelon operative. I mean, he often introduced you at fundraisers, and I'm wondering, well, what were you thinking at the time? I mean, he takes federal money to run the Chelsea Housing Authority. I mean, he could be in violation of the Hatch Act for, then fundraising for you while at the same time taking federal money. I mean, did anybody ever say to you, hey, Tim, you might want to steer clear of this guy?
Well, that's been reported. That is not accurate. And, you go into any part of the state as a statewide office, there are people who don't like each other. And I can tell you, I was not aware of some of the history that's been since reported. We try to do Google checks on every person that contributes to us and donates, and you do the best you can. But listen, people are going to let you down. He misled and lied to a whole bunch of people and organizations, myself included. And that makes me angry and frustrated as someone who, since my days in college, worked on issues of affordable housing and homelessness issues. So it is immensely frustrating. And, you try to learn, improve, and just as I said, it's been very frustrating.
I'm sure it is, and I'm sure you're frustrated too by there's so much cynicism, around state government, all kinds of government. And here in the state, we had the probation scandal yesterday. That audit came out about we're paying welfare benefits to dead people. But I mean, you got a job for Michael. You helped anyway get his son a job with this agency that looks at DUI convictions and whether they can be overturned or get their licenses back and stuff. I mean, my point is this, this hand in glove, and I'll help you and you help me, and people think, is that what government is all about?
But, again, when I look at, if people want to look at things in isolation, sure. But I've advocated, we brought CEOs into our administration. We brought mayors, experienced leaders in making government work into our administration. We brought graduate students and subject matter experts into our administration. No one bats 1,000. Whether Democrat, Republican, previous administrations, you do the best you can. And I can tell you, I've never engaged in a quid pro quo. You make recommendations, you pass people along. But for people to suggest that somehow I'm sitting in the lieutenant governor's office, handling all types of personnel matters for the administration, that is not inaccurate. People see my State House News Service schedule over the last 6.5 years. I am out around the state, engaged, moving issues, and that, I think, is part of the story that I'm proud of, that we've accomplished a great deal in the areas of my portfolio. Never have relationships with mayors and cities and towns been better. We have moved the transportation agenda, especially around rail, with the CSX, the historic CSX purchase, changed the paradigm on how we deliver services to the homeless and domestic violence. So there's a lot I'm proud of. Today we named Joe Kennedy the chair of the STEM Advisory Council. So a lot of good work that's helped people and positioned Massachusetts and every region of the state state to grow. And listen, I've been a vocal advocate for regions of the state that have often been forgotten in the greater Boston area, and that hasn't always endeared me to some people as well.
All right, one more Michael McLaughlin thing, and then I'm going to move on. I mean, he pled with an understanding with authorities that if he, maybe implicated other people, that he would get a more lenient sentence. Have you been guaranteed by federal authorities that there's no criminal indictment coming, that there's no legal jeopardy for you whatsoever? You're just free and clear?
Well, listen, nobody's guaranteed. Based upon, his lying and misleading to a whole bunch of people, I can't guarantee. I don't think anyone else can guarantee what he may say or not say. All I can tell you is I asked for the investigation when reports came out that he was asking public employees for money. We have complied and answered any questions that people have asked. And, the investigation's for someone else to handle. We have been there and tried to cooperate in every way we could.
So no one said anything to you?
Right.
So you don't know?
Right.
Yeah.
We're working with our team, and if there's any issues, we want to try to get to the bottom of it. And if there was money that was solicited, we want to return it.
Mm-hmm. So going back to the Worcester job now, I mean, had you been thinking about moving on for a while? Did they come to you? Did you go to them?
Well, after I announced that I wasn't running for governor or running for office again, I conferred with the Ethics Commission to understand what I could do or not do. As people inquired of me what my future employment plans would be. And about a month and a half ago, the executive leadership of the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce approached me. The current president and CEO announced last year his retirement, and they had begun a search. And they asked would I be interested. And initially I said no. And then they made the pitch of how they want to have the chamber and its new leadership be much more aggressive and vocal in marketing Central Massachusetts, not only in Boston, but New England and across the country. Because the fact of the matter is, if you took Central Massachusetts and lifted it up and plopped it in anywhere else in the country, it would be a city in a region with a national and an international identity, 30,000 college students, world-class hospitals, a growing, expanding transportation system, a great workforce, well-educated workforce, affordable housing for people of all different backgrounds, workforce housing, higher-end housing. But
beautiful museum.
Beautiful museum, arts and cultural assets, but we're in the shadow of Boston in many respects. So we can't compete with Boston, but we can complement one another. And also tell our story, and that is consistent with the work that I've done throughout my time as Lieutenant Governor and advocating for regions outside of Boston, Mayor for 5 years of Worcester, and a City Councilor.
So the political analyst Lou DiNatale and several other state reps from the Worcester area have said, you know what, nobody in Boston ever gives anybody from Worcester a fair shake. That would be the media and other people. They have, Worcester, a podunk town, bit player, I think you referred to, and what? Do you think that's fair? Do you think that you are dismissed because you're laughing, dismissed because you're from Worcester? Well,
as President Kennedy said, life isn't always fair, and I would just say that, most days I've enjoyed in the 15 years in office, and if anyone who's a so-called expert, a pundit or commentator, takes the time to at least look at my record and the things that and the people that have worked with me in the areas in my portfolio. As Lieutenant Governor, initiatives that I took on as mayor, they're going to see a record.
Just for the record, Lou DiNatale was on your side.
Yeah, well,
he's the one who's saying,
Lou, I think Lou is somebody who looks at the full picture, and so I think that sometimes happens. But what can you do?
Well, do you feel you got a fair shake from the press? Do you think they were dogging you for?
Well, there's different prisms. I was pleased to see the Springfield Republican do an editorial thanking me for my work on issues on behalf of Western Mass and Springfield area, Holyoke, standing up for projects in Chicopee and Pittsfield. The Fall River Herald News, same type of thing, my work in Fall River and economic development issues, the New Bedford Standard Times. So I think if anyone in this town or in the greater Boston area really wants to drill down, look at the areas of my portfolio, talk about the people that have actually worked with me and the initiatives we've taken on, the projects we've gotten done. There's a lot more than maybe some of the portrayal that's out there. But what are you going to do?
Well, listen, you're young. You still got $250,000 in your campaign coffers. I mean, might you consider doing this for a while and then jumping back in?
Not in the immediate future. My daughter's turned 8 and 7 recently, so this job is perfect in many respects. It allows me to continue that work, albeit in the private sector, and to continue to build, strengthen, promote the region. be closer to home, and so we'll see. Time will tell, but it's not anything I'd rule out.
So, yeah, so you'll sit on the cash for a while. You're not going to give that back anytime soon.
We'll see.
How did Governor Patrick respond when you came to him and said, this is what you wanted to do? Did he try to convince you, try to turn your head on it?
Well, he expressed, his...
He's been a big supporter.
No, he's been great, and personally, you couldn't ask for a better partner in terms of giving me a range of issues, and whether it be the CSX deal. They've been talking about getting that done for 20, 25 years, and some people think it was just my advocacy to get more trains between Worcester and Boston, but it's opening up huge development opportunities, 80 acres right down the road from the studio for potential redevelopment with the city of Boston, the state, Harvard, that can create some really exciting connections for Boston. It's opening up the possibility for rail for South Coast. But the governor said, look, there's a big hole here, but I understand your heart and head is in Worcester and what it means to you, and that this is a unique job. This job wasn't going to be available in January of 2015. Yes, there might have been more opportunities to go work at a law firm or lobby or do things, but this is kind of unique, and I know this organization pretty well because I worked there in high school in the mailroom.
I saw where you got over $1 million for the state's vocational schools today, and I was impressed to see also that you've visited all 64 vocational schools in the state. Is that one of your signature accomplishments? What would you point to and say, here's what I've done for the state?
Well, as I mentioned, I ran in 2006 with saying we're going to have a better partnership between local government and the corner office. Relationships have never been better. Mayors who've worked with have had access through my office to the administration. The governor has allowed us to come forward with municipal partnership legislation, Acts 1 and 2, pension reform, health care, and then investing in infrastructure projects that open up job opportunities and economic development opportunities for cities and towns. The CSX deal on the transportation, working on the first rail master plan in 30 years, promoting freight and commuter rail expansion smartly and strategically, changing how we deliver housing and homelessness services, domestic violence services. We continue to be the leader on veteran services across the country, and having worked with veterans organizations and legislators, we have raised the bar. So I'm excited about what we've been able to accomplish in a lot of areas that I've been entrusted to be chair or take the lead on. The test will be as I get older, and my kids or grandkids, we drive around the state, be able to point, your father helped on that particular project. To me, it's not always about the headlines or who gets the credit, but it's about getting things done and bringing people together. Okay,
so will the Lieutenant Governor's office still be in operation without you? Because we won't have another Lieutenant Governor until January of 2015. That's quite a ways from now. So people are thinking, well, wow, do we really need this? Or will your office continue to do what you're...
Well, people have never asked that question when the governor leaves, and governors have left, but Governor Patrick is not...
they asked some pretty tough questions when the governor's left.
Right. We've been, since I made the announcement, transitioning chairmanships of a lot of the interagency councils. Today, we announced that Congressman Joe Kennedy is going to lead the STEM Advisory Council. We put together the first STEM plan. That STEM plan's been replicated and borrowed by other states.
What's the STEM?
Science, technology, engineering, and math. Getting more people. Mm-hmm. We know that even in the Great Recession, we've had jobs available in different sectors, but they need skill sets in STEM. And it's not always advanced degrees. It could be a Voc Tech program. It could be an associate's degree. I was at a company a couple of years ago in South Worcester County, IPG Photonics, one of the fastest growing companies in the state, and I asked the Vice President of Human Resources what her biggest need was, and she said associate's degrees in electronics. And where they could get those people with those degrees would dictate where they're going to grow and expand. And this is a company that operates on 3 continents. So, it's about, opening up those opportunities.
So will your staff still be there or no?
Yeah, some of our staff is going to be assigned. That's the other thing. I only have a staff of 5.
Yeah.
So we travel light and we're lean, but some of them will be transitioning to some of the agencies and working with the chairs.
Mm-hmm. I'm almost finished here, but we're going to be looking tomorrow at the memorial in Copley Square, and I'm wondering what you think. Is it time to move on? Should we take that down? It's been raining last weekend and today, and what should we do with that?
I think it's important that we have some memorial of the goodness in people that we saw in the seconds after that bomb, how a state, a community, a city came together. And yes, we witnessed evil that day in its most hideous form. But we also saw incredible love, faith, courage, and the moments and days and weeks into this moment to make sure that we're supporting.
Take the temporary one down, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need something permanent, and I'll let the mayor and the families and the people impacted should have the most say in that. And we had some experience that in Worcester over the years with the loss of 6 firefighters. So it's important to let them dictate the process, but I do think it's important for us to have some remembrance.
I hope you're going to get a vacation before you start your new job.
Yeah, this weekend.
Oh, just this weekend. All right. Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray, thanks for coming, and good luck to you.
Appreciate it.